Every courtroom has seen thousands of stories, but on this day, one story made even Judge Frank Caprio fall silent. The bailiff speaks softly. Next case, Robert Williams. A slight pause. Then the camera pans toward the entrance. A frail old man, perhaps in his late 80s, slowly walks forward. He's wearing a worn-out brown jacket, his hands trembling as he clutches an old flat cap. Every step he takes seems heavy, deliberate. People in the courtroom glance at him. The room grows quiet. You can almost feel the weight of time on his shoulders. Judge Caprio looks up and gives his usual warm smile. "Good morning, sir. Please state your name." The man's voice trembles as he speaks. Robert Williams, Your Honor." Caprio nods kindly. "Mr. Williams, it's nice to meet you. I see here you have a few unpaid parking tickets. Let's take a look." He flips through the papers in front of him, but before he can continue, the old man raises his hand slightly, hesitant, almost shaking. "Your Honor, may I say something first?" Caprio pauses, surprised by the tone. He leans forward. "Of course, sir. Go ahead." His lips tremble as he exhales deeply. "Your Honor, this might be my last day here, and I just want to say something before my time runs out." The room goes completely silent. Even the sound of papers rustling stops. No one in that courtroom expected what was coming next. Caprio leans back slightly, concern on his face. "Take your time, Mr. Williams. We're in no rush." The man clutches his cap tighter. You can see the veins on his hands, thin and fragile like paper. He looks down, unable to meet the judge's eyes. "I wasn't planning to come here, Your Honor. My son told me to just pay the fines by mail, but I needed to come." Caprio tilts his head slightly, listening carefully. "I needed to see you, face to face." Camera cuts to Caprio. His expression softens. "Well, I'm glad you did, sir. You came to the right place." The man gives a faint smile, but his eyes glisten. "I've watched you for years, Judge. I've seen how you treat people, with kindness and respect. You don't see that much anymore." He pauses. A tear glints in his left eye, barely visible under the courtroom light. "And before I go, I just wanted to say thank you." Caprio's brows furrow slightly, a mix of confusion and empathy. "Before you go?" he asks gently. The man nods slowly. "Yes, my doctor says I don't have much time left. I wanted to leave things right." A quiet gasp escapes from someone in the back row. Caprio's expression shifts, from formality to something deeply personal. He takes off his glasses and sets them on the desk. It wasn't just another defendant standing before him. It was a man racing against time, trying to make peace with his own story. Caprio clears his throat. "Mr. Williams, I'm sorry to hear that. But let's talk about these tickets, shall we?" The old man, "Yes, Your Honor. They're all mine. I won't deny it. But there's a reason for them." Caprio leans forward again, resting his elbows on the desk. "Then let's hear it." The man takes a deep breath. You can see him gathering courage, like someone preparing to open a wound that never truly healed. "Every time you see one of those tickets, it's from the same place, the grocery store on Elm Street." Caprio glances down at the papers and nods slowly. "That's right, every one of them." The old man continues, his voice breaking slightly. "I wasn't parking there to shop. I was parking there to pick up medicine for my wife." The judge listens quietly, his face softening further. "She's been sick for a long time, Your Honor. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk much either." He pauses. A long silence fills the courtroom. "I didn't have anyone else. So I'd leave the car running, just for a few minutes, grab what she needed and run back." He smiles sadly. Guess those few minutes added up. No one in the courtroom moved. Every eye was on that old man, every heart heavy with the quiet weight of his words. Caprio takes a deep breath. His voice, usually calm and firm, wavers slightly. "Mr. Williams, you did what any loving husband would do." The man nods slowly. "I tried my best, sir. She was my everything." He looks up for the first time. his eyes watery but proud. But she's gone now. The air in the room feels heavy. Caprio's lips part slightly, but he says nothing. The man wipes a tear and continues. I don't care about the tickets. I just wanted to say thank you, before I leave this world, for treating people like human beings. You gave people hope, Judge. He lowers his gaze again. And you gave me peace. Caprio's eyes glisten. He exhales slowly, the silence almost sacred. In that moment, the courtroom wasn't about law or punishment or rules. It was about life, about one man's final act of gratitude. He finally whispers, Mr. Williams, let's talk about your case. The camera slowly zooms back into Judge Caprio, still looking at the elderly man standing before him. Robert Williams, 82 years old, trembling slightly but holding himself with quiet dignity. For most people, a parking ticket is just a small inconvenience. But for Robert, it was the shadow of a life defined by love, loss, and sacrifice. Caprio looks down at the ticket list in front of him. You have 6 tickets, Mr. Williams, all from the same area. They total about $120. He looks back up, his tone gentle. Now tell me, why didn't you pay them sooner? Robert shifts uncomfortably, his voice shaking. Because, Your Honor, I didn't have the money. My wife's medical bills, they took everything. The room stays silent. Even the hum of the lights seems distant. He wasn't making excuses. He wasn't begging for mercy. He was simply telling the truth. Caprio leans forward. How long were you caring for her? The old man takes a deep breath. 20 years, Your Honor. I've been her caretaker since she was first diagnosed. Caprio's eyebrows lift slightly. 20 years? That's a lifetime of love. Robert smiles faintly. It sure was, sir. Every morning, I'd wake up early, make her breakfast, read to her from her favorite book. He pauses. She used to love poetry. The courtroom camera pans to the audience. A woman in the back wipes a tear discreetly. Robert continues. Even when she forgot my name, she still remembered the poems. Caprio's expression softens, eyes reflecting deep empathy. Mr. Williams, that's beautiful. Robert nods. She was my whole world. And after she passed, I didn't know what to do. The house was empty. The days were long. He pauses again, clutching his hat. So I'd drive to that grocery store every morning, sit in the car for a while. It was the last place I used to go with her. The silence that follows is heavy, filled with unspoken memories. For Robert, those tickets weren't about law or negligence. They were about holding on to the last piece of a life that once meant everything. Caprio slowly, processing every word. You parked there just to feel close to her. Robert's voice breaks slightly. Yes, sir. I knew it was wrong, but sometimes, sitting there, it felt like she was still with me. He chuckles weakly, wiping his eyes. Guess I didn't care about the signs. I just cared about remembering her. Judge Caprio takes off his glasses and rubs his forehead, not out of frustration, but emotion. Mr. Williams, he says softly, you remind me of my father. He used to say, love doesn't end when someone leaves. It just changes form. Robert smiles. That's the truest thing I've heard in a long time, Your Honor. No papers shuffle. It's as if time itself has slowed down to listen. What began as a routine parking violation had become something far deeper. A story of love, aging, and the quiet dignity of saying goodbye. Caprio looks at the old man's record again. You've lived in Providence your whole life? Robert, born and raised, sir. Worked at the post office for 40 years. Never missed a day, until she got sick. Caprio smiles gently. 40 years. That's a lifetime of service. The city's lucky to have men like you. Robert lowers his head humbly. I wasn't perfect, Your Honor, but I tried. Each wrinkle on his hands told a story, not of mistakes, but of endurance, of a man who'd given everything to love and loyalty. Caprio flips the ticket papers again and sighs. Mr. Williams, I wish every person who came into this courtroom carried themselves the way you do, with honesty, humility, and grace. The old man smiles softly. That means a lot coming from you, Judge. My wife used to watch your show. She said you had the kindest eyes. Caprio looks up, clearly moved. Your wife sounds like a wise woman. Robert chuckles, the first time he truly smiles. She was, and a little stubborn too. The courtroom laughs gently, breaking the tension for a moment. For a brief moment, laughter returned to that old man's face, the kind he hadn't known since before grief moved into his home. Caprio leans forward again. Mr. Williams, do you live alone now? Robert nods. Yes, sir. Just me and her dog. Well, our dog. Caprio's face brightens slightly. You still have her dog? Yeah, he's blind now, just like me some days. Robert chuckles. But he still finds his way to her chair every night, won't sleep anywhere else. The courtroom smiles softly, some tearing up. Even in his loneliness, love had left traces. In the empty chair, in the old dog, and in the heart that refused to stop remembering. Caprio takes a deep breath. Mr. Williams, let me tell you something. The world needs more people like you, people who remember love even when the world forgets it. Robert nods slowly, whispering, Thank you, Your Honor. That's all I needed to hear, just the sound of the clock ticking in the courtroom. There are moments that transcend rules and laws, moments where justice isn't about punishment, it's about compassion. Judge Caprio, finally speaking, Mr. Williams, let's settle this. You're not just another case number to me. You're a reminder of what it means to truly live and to truly love. He folds his hands on the desk. But before I make a decision, I want to ask you something. Robert looks up, surprised. Anything, Your Honor. Caprio pauses. Tell me, what would your wife say if she were here today? The old man smiles faintly, tears glistening in his eyes. She'd probably say, Robert, stop worrying about the tickets. Come home, I'm waiting. A single tear falls from his cheek. And for the first time in a long time, Robert's voice carried peace instead of pain. Judge Frank Caprio leans slightly forward, looking at the frail man before him, Robert Williams, who's clutching his old hat, eyes glistening. The judge's tone is calm, patient. Mr. Williams, you mentioned your dog earlier. You said he's blind now? Robert nods slowly, his lips trembling just a little. Yes, Your Honor. His name's Charlie. He was my wife's guide dog. The room goes completely silent. Even the court clerk looks up from her notes. Colon. And with that one sentence, the atmosphere shifted. What had seemed like a simple parking case suddenly became something far deeper. Judge Caprio adjusts his glasses. Your wife's guide dog? Robert nods again, emotion tightening his throat. She started losing her sight about 12 years ago. Charlie was trained to help her. He went everywhere with us. Church, the market, our walks by the river. His voice breaks slightly as he continues. He was more than a dog, Your Honor. He was her eyes, and my best friend. Everyone is still, moved, listening. Robert. After she passed, Charlie stopped eating for days. He'd just lie next to her chair, waiting for her. I tried to call him, feed him, anything, but he just wanted her. He pauses, wiping his eyes. Then one morning I found him sitting by the window, howling so softly, like he was calling for her. That's when I realized. He missed her as much as I did. Judge Caprio's, and now you take care of him, don't you? Robert. Yes, sir. He's old now, can barely walk. I carry him most days. But I promised my wife I'd never let him go. There it was, the truth behind the man's quiet eyes, behind the parking tickets and unpaid fines. This wasn't just about law or responsibility. It was about love that refused to fade. Caprio looks down at the paper again, then back at the man. So those 6 tickets, you got them while visiting the same place every morning? Robert. Yes, sir. The park near our old house. That's where she used to sit with Charlie. I go there every day to let him feel the grass under his paws. It's the only time he seems happy. The courtroom audience now has tears in their eyes. One woman quietly covers her mouth. Robert continues softly. When I get there, I sit on the same bench. Charlie rests his head on my lap. And sometimes, when the wind blows just right, It feels like she's sitting beside us. Judge Caprio's eyes glisten. He clears his throat quietly. Mr. Williams, that's a beautiful thing you're doing. The old man looks up, surprised. You really think so, Your Honor? Caprio nods. Absolutely. That's love, pure and simple, the kind the world doesn't see enough of anymore. In that moment, the courtroom was no longer a place of punishment. It was a place of understanding, where humanity outweighed law. You know, sir, I wasn't even supposed to come here today. Caprio frowned slightly. What do you mean? Charlie's not well. He's been struggling to breathe. But this notice said I had to appear, so I left him with my neighbor for a few hours. It wasn't just another errand for him. It was a sacrifice. Every minute away from that dog felt like leaving behind the last piece of his wife. Robert hesitates, his hands shaking. And that's not all, Your Honor. Caprio looks at him with concern. Take your time, Mr. Williams. Robert's voice cracks. Charlie's sick. The vet says he won't make it through the winter. He lowers his head, clutching his hat tighter. I just wanted him to have a few more mornings at that park, where she used to sit. That's why I didn't care about the tickets. I didn't want to lose that place too. He removes his glasses, staring down at the desk, his lips pressed together. For Judge Caprio, a man who's seen thousands of cases, this was not just another story. It was a mirror to everything he believed in: compassion, love, and the fragile weight of time. Caprio looks up again, his voice low and filled with empathy. Mr. Williams, you said this might be Charlie's last winter? Robert nods silently. Yes, sir. The vet said he might have only a few weeks left, but I promised him. We'll watch the first snowfall together, like we used to with her. Tears glimmer in his eyes. She used to say, snow makes the world quiet enough to hear love again. The courtroom sits in stunned silence. And in that silence, everyone heard it. Love echoing through the courtroom like a whisper of winter. Judge Caprio leans back, breathing deeply. Mr. Williams, I want to tell you something. You've reminded me today why I do this. The law may be written in ink, but justice, it's written in the heart. The old man looks up, nodding faintly. Thank you, Your Honor. And Charlie, he's lucky to have you. Robert chuckles through tears. I think we're both lucky, Your Honor. He's my reason to get up in the morning. Sometimes the greatest confessions don't come from guilt. They come from love. From people like Robert, who remind us that loyalty doesn't end with loss. The mood is quiet. The audience watches the two men, one behind the bench and one before it, both changed by the conversation. The law brought them together, but empathy turned judgment into grace. Judge Caprio, Mr. Williams, I want to take a short recess before I make my decision. But before that, I'd like to say thank you for reminding us all what love looks like. Robert, and thank you, Your Honor, for listening. Sometimes the most powerful stories aren't written in books. They're spoken by trembling voices in quiet courtrooms, where love stands trial and always wins. Judge Frank Caprio removes his glasses, wiping them slowly with a handkerchief. His voice is steady, but the heaviness in it is unmistakable. He looks at Robert, the frail man still standing before him, hat in hand, eyes lowered. The courtroom is completely still. Even the soft hum of the air conditioner seems to fade. Caprio, Mr. Williams, before I make my decision, I want to say something from the heart. He pauses, looking around the courtroom, at the people watching, at the clerk, at the police officer by the door. You see, I've been doing this for a long time. Thousands of cases, thousands of faces. But once in a while, someone walks in here and reminds all of us why we must never lose our humanity. Every word hung in the air like a prayer. The courtroom, usually a place of judgment, now felt like a sanctuary of compassion. Caprio turns his gaze back to Robert. I read these tickets, 6 of them. Each says, no parking zone. But when I heard your story, Mr. Williams, I realized these aren't just violations. He leans forward slightly. They're footprints, the last walks of a man keeping a promise. Robert's lip trembles. He blinks, fighting back tears. Caprio's tone deepens, filled with emotion. You came here today not to make excuses, but to honor love. A love that outlived death. A love that still walks you to that park every morning. Caprio looks down at his notes, then back up, his eyes moist. When you said you'd carry that old dog until the end, it reminded me of my own father. The courtroom shifts. A few people glance at each other, surprised by his vulnerability. He worked every day of his life, never complained, and when my mother got sick, he never left her side. I watched him grow older, slower, but he never stopped showing up for her. That's what love is, Mr. Williams, showing up, even when it hurts. The judge's voice cracked slightly. For the first time, his own memories blended with the story unfolding before him. Caprio exhales deeply. You've already paid your price, not in dollars but in devotion, and this court will not punish love. The room is silent. Robert looks up, confusion mixed with disbelief. Your Honor, you mean, Caprio? Yes, sir. I'm dismissing all 6 tickets. Gasps ripple softly through the courtroom. The bailiff lowers his head, smiling. The audience exhales a collective sigh of emotion. Caprio continues gently. And if anyone in this room disagrees, they can come take it up with me personally. Because today, justice has a heart. Tears welled in the eyes of everyone present, not because of the verdict, but because of what it meant. In that moment, justice wasn't just fair, it was kind. Robert struggles to find words. I don't know how to thank you, Your Honor. My wife always said, there's good left in the world. I think she was right. Caprio smiles faintly, voice thick with emotion. She sounds like a wise woman, and I think she'd be proud of both of you. Robert lowers his head, whispering, Thank you, sir. Thank you from my heart. The audience quietly wipes tears. A police officer discreetly hands Robert a tissue. Caprio sits back, taking a deep breath, staring down at his bench, lost in thought. Somewhere between the weight of law and the light of love, a miracle had happened. Not one of wealth or fame, but of understanding. Robert turns to leave, his steps slow, his frame frail but steady. He stops at the door and looks back. Your Honor? Caprio looks up. Yes, Mr. Williams. Robert smiles faintly through tears. When Charlie's time comes, I'll tell him his last friend was a good man. The courtroom falls silent again. Caprio whispers almost to himself, and tell him his friend will never forget him either. Sometimes, the greatest justice isn't found in punishment, but in mercy. The kind that restores faith in people, one soul at a time. And as the first snowflakes touched the ground, love kept its final promise. The law may close a case, but compassion, it opens hearts forever. Judge Frank Caprio, proving once again that justice is more than rules. It's humanity. The sunlight that once filled the courtroom has dimmed. The day's noise is gone. Only the faint echo of footsteps remains as Judge Frank Caprio gathers his papers. He stops midway, sitting back in his chair. The silence feels heavier than before. The judge, who had seen thousands of faces, criminals, victims, the broken and the brave, sat alone, trying to steady his breath. But this one felt different. Caprio removes his glasses again, staring at the bench before him. The very wood that had absorbed countless tears, apologies, and pleas over the years. He whispers softly to himself, a blind man and his dog, 6 tickets, and more love than this entire room could hold. He leans back, staring at the ceiling, his eyes glistening under the dim light. People come here every day thinking justice is about punishment. But sometimes, justice is simply listening. Those words replayed in his mind like a melody he couldn't turn off. Every syllable carried the weight of gratitude, pain, and something greater. the truth that love never truly ends. Caprio stands and walks slowly toward the window. Outside, Providence glows under a pale evening light. Cars moving, people laughing, unaware of the small miracle that just took place inside this old courthouse. He folds his hands behind his back, gazing quietly at the world below. Caprio, if the world could see what I see in this courtroom, maybe it would be a little kinder. He glances at a photo frame on his desk, a black and white picture of his own father, smiling proudly in his work uniform. You taught me that, Dad. Justice without kindness is just power. But kindness is divine. In that moment, the line between judge and human blurred completely. He wasn't just a man enforcing the law. He was a son remembering lessons from a father and passing them on through every judgment he made. He traces his fingers along the polished wood, a symbolic gesture, as if feeling the lives that had stood before it. So many stories, and every one of them a heartbeat, he murmurs. The janitor, a quiet middle-aged man, pauses and smiles. Long day, Judge? Caprio nods with a small smile. You could say that, but it was a good day. How come? The janitor asks. Because today, the law remembered its heart. A simple answer, yet it carried more truth than 100 pages of legal code. Caprio steps outside the courthouse, coat over his shoulders, briefcase in hand. The snowflakes land gently on his sleeve. He stops for a moment on the courthouse steps, looking up at the sky. Caprio, to himself. I hope he got home safe. Both of them. He smiles faintly, the kind of smile that only comes from a heart at peace. Robert parks near the same park where he used to take Charlie. The old dog rests quietly on the seat beside him. Robert strokes Charlie's head gently. We did it, buddy. The nice judge said we're free to go. Charlie wags his tail once, weak but content. The camera slowly pans upward. Robert's wrinkled hand still resting on Charlie's fur as the screen fades to white. Two men from different worlds, one bound by the law, one bound by love. Both reminded us that compassion is the only true justice. He drives slowly, hands steady on the wheel. The radio plays soft classical music, but his mind is far away, on the faces, on the stories, on the fragile line between right and wrong. He whispers quietly, if the law ever forgets to feel, it ceases to serve. He pulls into his driveway, turns off the engine, and sits still for a moment. The house is quiet. He glances at the empty passenger seat, the echo of Robert and Charlie lingering in his memory. We often think heroes wear badges or robes or titles, but sometimes they're just people who choose empathy over ego and mercy over might. Caprio, final whisper. Justice isn't what we decide in here, it's what we carry out there. And as long as men like Judge Frank Caprio walk among us, mercy will never be out of style. Inspired by the real kindness of Judge Frank Caprio, a reminder that humanity always wins.